So, good morning, everybody. As people are rolling in, Michael Bunch is a 28 years has it been in the real estate business?
28 years in real estate. Be
Wow.
29 this year. Wow.
In the Atlanta area. Michael and I got connected through the one thing. As you can see his background. We have a lot of connections through that organization, and we become good friends. And so I asked him to come on and join us today because he's just got a lot of great information to share. So tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Bunch. I know this where you're located. How long have you been with KW the whole time? I'll let you kind of roll into that.
Gotcha. No, so I live in Atlanta, Georgia, originally from a small town in the Mississippi Delta. Came here right out of college to work for a apartment and motel developer, and then as an engineer, civil engineer. So that's my background. I moved
Did not know that.
Shifted into real estate in '95 so that I could get paid for working smarter. Too bad I didn't do that. I think just growing up, just the culture. My dad worked for his father, and they had their own company, and it was work hard. But so I figured I could just outwork most people. So that was the philosophy that I had for a long time. Anyway, fast forward, spent my first 7 years with a small local brokerage here, selling residential real estate, and then moved over to KW in 2002. So I've been with KW for 22 of those 28 years.
Okay.
So a little bit of background.
Fantastic.
So you didn't know I was a civil engineer?
I had no idea. No. And something that you said that was really interesting is that you figured you could outwork everybody. You didn't really, it was just like put my head down and go.
Yeah, when I moved to Atlanta, I was around people that mostly were older than me. So they were hiring young engineers coming out of a recession. So I grew a mustache, tried to drop my Mississippi accent, and tried to blend with people that were older than me. And the only thing I had other than a degree was hard work, putting in the hours and just trying to outrun people for a promotion or outrun my competition if it was that kind of situation. So
when did
you know what?
Go ahead.
I could do that and did that until 2019. And
I was just going to ask you, when did things change? Because we're on a very similar path.
By God's grace, that hard work and whatever raw talent he gave me allowed me to qualify for the ALC the entire time I've been at KW. So I could just push through and be in the top 20%. But it's at one point, I was plateauing out and couldn't get any further. And there was a lot of growing up. So when you and I met, that was one of the hardest years of my life. Really, this first time I tried anything where midway I thought, I might just not be able to do this. And $5,000 is about to just go out the window. But I'm going to learn a lesson. Anyway, somehow I dug in, grew up, and listened to the wisdom and became teachable and made it through. But, yeah.
So this is when you were going through certification with the one thing, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
So kind of melted down, identity crisis. I'm not sure I can stay in real estate in 2019. And then 2020 hit, and COVID and all of that. And Cara and I reconnected, and she said, you may want to check this out. And it's like, look, I was at Gary, that's back when Gary traveled in 2013 when the book came out. So there was a book tour event in Atlanta. I went to, bought the book, probably got him to sign it. Years later, there was a call for time blocking mastery, a founders group for that. I applied for that, and out of 640, I was a hot enough mess that they thought I should be in the 100 to go through time blocking mastery. Did that, still didn't take. And I think I just finally gave up in 2019 and just said, you know what, I'm creative, run and gun, fly kind of just intuitively. And I just don't, I'm not naturally disciplined. I don't keep a day timer. I don't do any of that, stuff that I'm jealous of people who have that ability, but I just didn't have it. So I think I gave up and just decided I was not ever going to be, it just wasn't going to work for me. So that's the confession.
And what changed?
Well, for whatever, and this is not a complaint really, it's an observation looking back. Most of the people that I was around when it came to accountability, it was more raising pain rather than finding traction.
Interesting.
James Shaw said something profound on one of his calls. It had to do with the concept of pacing.
Okay.
And he said, what you really need to do if you're not keeping pace is just pull over and solve the issue of why you're not on pace, and slow the pace down until you can maintain it, and then incrementally ratchet it back up. And so we can go into that a little bit deeper, but I think I would try it and then get frustrated and eject, get mad, get angry, go back to just, doing things intuitively rather than cracking the code of why I was, let's say it's making 20 contacts a day. And if I wasn't able to do that, I mean, that's a bold pace. That'd be 100 in a week, which is robust to me anyway.
Yeah.
And I continue to struggle to find the pace that I can maintain long term, and just have the patience to letting those good activities and purposeful activities add up to the results that I want. So anyway, hope that helps.
Yeah. So when you mentioned pain, tell me more about that. This is something we talked a little bit about this.
So accountability, and the reason I hated GPS, hated 411, any of that, is because in the settings that I was going through that with the people that I was, I guess, being held accountable by, even though I wasn't, because I was looking for the door the whole time, but it was raise the pain, raise the stakes, the consequence. You're going to make your 100 contacts, or you're going to write a check to your arch rival, or the political party that you don't subscribe to, or something so unacceptable that you would force yourself to be accountable. So it was we're just going to keep raising the pain until you behave. And I could behave for a period of time under those circumstances, but I was miserable. And I hope none of you are in that situation where the answer is just keep raising the pain until you capitulate and behave. I needed to understand why. And as it turns out, I needed actually a destination that I wanted to go to, because I never had, I don't live a flashy lifestyle. So it's not like I needed money to go buy things that I didn't have. So it wasn't about the money. It was more about some underlying why that I needed to find.
Okay.
And when I unpacked a destination that I wanted to go to and started small enough, life got a whole lot better. And I figured out a way to be able to stay in real estate and do it the way that I'm built, the way that I have been created and I'm wired, and with the people that are the best fit for that.
So that was good. How much influence and impact did the one thing and all the training that you got through that, and the relationships with Jay and Cara?
My goodness.
I mean, how did that impact you?
Stepping into that culture just gave me room to breathe. So the contrast of raising the pain is, I mean, you can go through the book and it's like, think big, go small. And it's like, yeah, I get that. But I don't know that, well, I for sure didn't get it. And I think it's something would be easy to miss unless you were around people that were encouraging you or challenging your starting place. We call it the lead domino and the one thing, but they're challenging your lead domino, because the pitfall most everyone falls into, even the ones who do this, the temptation is to want to go big, go bigger. I want it to feel like it's enough to actually get me where I want to go, right?
Yep.
And when I got inside the one thing culture, it was about, all right, so what is the smaller version of this? What is the smaller? What is the smaller? What is the smaller? Let's get all the way back to, there's a sound that I make. I don't know if it'll come through, but it's like, which is, of course I can do that. When I found myself making that noise, I knew I was at my lead domino. And what happens is I get bored with that pretty quickly, and I start playing mind games of how I can do a little bit more, how I can do a little bit more. For me, that's the magic, because
Okay.
if I keep getting crushed by a deficit, and the deficits keep stacking up, let's just say I'm trying to pace 3 and I'm only pacing 2, and then the one losses just keep adding up, and pretty soon at some point I say I'm out, and I just throw a tantrum and go do something else, go do work that doesn't matter, whatever, wherever we run to. I think Jay calls it shadow work. So the culture of getting traction and establishing a habit that can be maintained consistently, however small it may be, I think it's going to feel embarrassingly small in the beginning. The emotional momentum that I was able to gain from that was like life-changing. And even though I had business issues, if in the book there's a page that talks about the 7 circles.
Yep.
I actually started with something in a health circle, and it was walking. And so I started walking in July 19th of 2020. And now I'm known in my neighborhood as the walker. He came up on Saturday. It's like, Michael, how many times are you walking? And it's like, well, I'm slacking now, and it's only 3 to 4 times a week, but it was every day at 6 o'clock for, 2 66-day challenges. I logged 132 days in a row when I did that challenge back in 2020. So it turns out I was in a bad headspace, depressed, just in a funk, and it probably took 42 days, as I remember, for me to walk out of that pit, just doing something for myself. And I had to do it at 6 a.m. when the rest of the world was asleep. That emotional energy, part of it was just mitigating the negative noise that's in my head.
Okay.
And then it began, look at that sunrise, look at the beauty, breathe the fresh air. That started rippling into the other 6 circles. And so counterintuitive, that who would have thought I could work on my business pacing for lead generation by walking in my neighborhood. But that is exactly what happened. I needed to start someplace that I actually could win. So when I started that 66-day challenge, the reason they all blew up for me in the past is I had a perfectionist mindset and said, if I have one loss, again, this is back to the punitive. We're going to raise the pain. You're going to start all the way back at 0, pledge. And you're going to get 66 in a row, and you're going to do it without any misses, rather than being satisfied with 64 wins and 2 losses and just keep going. It would have been 64 more wins than I would have gotten had I never done the challenge. And so there's a huge shift of every win is a win. Count the wins. Those X's matter more than I ever thought they would. And so, yeah, started with, and the way I phrased it was, I'm going to walk for 45 minutes at 6 a.m. So it wasn't a certain distance. It wasn't a certain speed. I figured I could hobble around my dining room table for 45 minutes, because it didn't have to be in a particular location either. All I had to do was wake up and move my body forward for 45 minutes, and it was a win. And I was able to do that. So the phrasing, making it winnable, is a big thing. And then that rippled into last year. I had my best year ever. So overnight success after 28 years. Woohoo!
And that's what we were talking the other day. That's what I wanted to bring to the table here is, what we see is, if I didn't know anything about anybody on this call, but I could see their success, and I just assumed it's always been that way. And, and getting to meet you, I knew that, what I knew was Michael Bunch, who's this really good speaker, really good trainer, successful real estate agent, never had a struggle in his life,
Yeah.
ever, which is why I wanted to have you come on here, because it is a journey and a struggle.
I think I have an above
Jason, I see your
average.
hand.
I think
Go
I have an
ahead.
above average fear of rejection. The Atlanta market pricing just feels very, very complicated. So I don't know that I've ever found real estate to be easy.
Mm.
And as an engineer, that makes me a bit of a unicorn because it's a bunch of extroverts and people, and I'm more detail oriented and not animated. And it has never fit. It had up until I got clear through the one thing on how I could do real estate and be me. It wasn't very much fun most days at all. I mean, I could do it and I could succeed, but it was sucking the life out of me. Now it feels like cheating, and so it's
I want,
crazy.
I love that. I want to come back to that.
Sure.
I got a couple of hands up. I want to let some people kind of throw some stuff in here. Jason and then Camille.
All right. First of all, thank you for being here because that's very uplifting. Also, in my mind, and this is how I kind of set my goals, the win is not necessarily accomplishing what you thought of. The win is knowing that you have an opportunity to do something different and better yourself. So that recognizing what you want to do is the win. The process that you get there to make that thing successful is an achievement, but the win is recognizing that you can improve. So if you've already done that, you've already won.
Yeah, and that's the part that actually does bring real tears to my eyes. And Jay has confirmed it. He's talked about, since I've never been a super achiever, he talks about the super achievers when they actually do get to the destination, there's a letdown because there's an emptiness because it didn't actually scratch the itch.
Mm.
What scratches the itch is becoming someone you didn't believe you could become. That's what gets me choked up, especially as someone who had given up on ever being able. I can build habits, I can build bad ones like nobody's business. So it's not that I can't be consistent. I can be very consistent. I just have not been a person up until this point who can build good habits that are taking me where I want to go. How about that? So anyway, yeah, my pizza habit doesn't get me where I want to go, but yeah,
No,
let's go to the next.
the pizza doesn't. And I want to come back to that and talk about the habits. Camille, fire away.
Good morning, everyone. I am your resident overachiever. Nice to see you all. I definitely have that letdown when I get to the finish line, and I always am asking myself, what could I have done better? What could I have done more? And it's just I don't ever stop to celebrate, and I recognize that in myself, but I think it really just boils down to I hate to lose more than I love to win. And that is really just what fuels my fury. Yeah.
I I have a hard time celebrating. I actually went out for a steak with a friend of mine who had to coax me into going with him. And man, I had a closing that was like 2,750,000. I should be able to celebrate, and that should come natural to me, and it doesn't. So I can relate to that. I had fun, and the steak was awesome. I'd have a hard time doing it twice because of the cost of it. So there's a lot of work for me to do yet still.
Okay, love that. Blakely, fire away.
Oh, Michael, I was just kind of wondering, the first domino is that walk in the morning. What were the like second, third, fourth, like what were the next dominoes, that you decided to make it winnable, making it winnable?
It became, back to the person that I was most of my life, which is I'm not a daytimer person. I'm not a planner. I would reluctantly set goals, but they were just goals that real estate salespeople have. So you pick a GCI number or you pick a whatever, volume number. And so the next one began just the planning part of doing a 411 and looking at it daily. I still struggle with that one. the greatest hits of 66-day challenges and lead dominoes when we're in these one thing discussions, there's a common theme. It's usually a health goal. I want to exercise. I want to go to the gym. I want to walk. And then it ends up being more planning. And because if you are engaging with your dreams on a daily basis, they're just going to get into your bloodstream and your subconsciousness. And they're going to run there, and you're not going to really have to think about it. But well, at least I do. I get disoriented by the chaos of life and the offers coming in and the new listing and all of the real estate stuff.
I feel like
And I forget of where I actually really wanted to go. So what happened was I did the first 66-day challenge on walking. I was afraid that wasn't enough, so I rolled into a second one with the same thing. And then I was afraid that I was going to fall off the wagon because this is so new for me. It's just like, I don't know, did I really become somebody different? Or am I just waiting to go back to who I was? And so I layered it. And so the next challenge was, can I, and what I talk about with my classes is every pebble you toss into your wagon, you're going to feel. You're going to feel every pebble. And so tossing that new thing of doing a 411 and looking at it on a daily basis, tossing that into the wagon on top of my walking habit was enough to throw my life out of balance, because we're in a routine, whether we know it or aware of it or not. We're in a routine and our weeks are just kind of flowing the way that they flow. I think most people underestimate the ripple effect, and usually it's chaos when you add one new thing. And so I wouldn't add anything big because it's going to throw your whole week off. So that's where I came up with that pebble analogy, because it's like, how there's no way I can feel that pebble. And it was enough to shift the wagon I was pulling, and then it starts to fishtail, and then my life falls apart. And all I did was try to look at a 411 every day. But because it's brand new, you don't underestimate the effort and what that's going to feel like. So that's all the more reason to start really, really, really small. Of just pick up the piece of paper and then set it back down. That's how small this gets. Because what happens is, if you pick up that piece of paper, you're going to look at it. But that's an extra piece. Your goal could be as small as, I'm going to go touch my 411 on my desk or by my nightstand. And then that's a win. And if that sounds ridiculous, the game that happens is eventually just touching it is not enough, and you're going to do more. If you demand that you do more, I don't know where the tipping point is as to when you can't maintain it. What I do know is, if the goal is to touch it and you touch it 66 times, it's going to get inside of you and it's going to change who you are. If you get mad and quit, that's not going to change who you are. So I don't know where the balance is, but I do know that starting ridiculously small and laughing at it has worked for me, and everything else did it.
And that sounds counterintuitive, which is really interesting. I see Mary Bly's hand up, and I want to come back. I got a question on that too. Mary Bly, fire away.
So, so I show up today, and this hits me at my core. To be honest with you, I'm very emotional. This just hits me at my core in terms of the I don't know. It's all of it. It's maybe it's not being satisfied. It was really cool to hear you say, one might look at my life and say, what do you have to complain about? Especially after this week, being very fortunate and working hard, yet I know that there's more, and I've drilled it down to the point of knowing I've got to do the uncomfortable, and that is slow down and work on the systems that ultimately will bring the fruit of my labors, and making it also easier, that it's not the constant chaos, so forth and so on. And that comes with a little bit of a price, or even a big price in the moment. But in
for
the
sure.
long game, I can still see the long game. And I will tell you that I'm becoming very, very comfortable with the help of just another thing, just drilling down and hiring the right person. Um, you know, that's one thing. And then the other thing is that, yeah, I'm a little moving and grooving. And at the same time, too, one might say, again, looking in, what do you got to complain about? But you hit a point, too, in the sense that I think a lot of the time I'm also taken care of. I say it out loud. So I appreciate the opportunity to say this because a lot of people don't understand this. And people that are showing up here every morning, you know, have a sense of understanding. And that is that, I might say for the good of me, maybe first my God. And my God, I'm not mistaken on that. But then me, my family, my community. But I will tell you, looking in, it might be saying, wow, she's doing crazy things. But, it's the real simple things that make me happy. Is as simple as sitting on the beach on my beach chair and riding my bicycle.
Mm.
And I'm actually doing bigger things because they're appealing to other people, my family. And you know what? All day long, I'll do that for my family, but I'm forgetting about me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, Mary. Thank you.
Well,
That's interesting. Michael, go ahead.
I think for most of my career, I'll be 62 this year, so probably for most of my life, even I've been. The underlying feeling was if I truly be me, that's not going to be enough. So I need to perform. I need to be this super agent. I need to be, whatever. And it was just wearying. So when you talk about, riding your bicycle and sitting in your beach chair, I had to deal with the butterflies and what I call pre-nausea. Whatever, when you go over a railroad crossing a little too fast and that catch in your stomach, that's the feeling of between. Meaning I uncovered what I wanted. I wanted to go there, but I don't know when I'm going to get there. And or if I can become the person that can get there. But the clarity is I know what is not going to get me there before I know exactly what is going to get me there. And that is an emptiness that's making space for what will. And it's eliminating what the distractions that won't. And for me, there's just an uncomfortable tension in my stomach that I call the butterflies. So I had to make peace with the butterflies, which means I have clarity about where I want to go, but I'm a long way from that. So what I needed to do is start emptying my life of the distractions that are going to keep me from going there, and then just sit there and hang on until I begin to get the new pieces in place. So I call it the butterflies, and some of it is just being comfortable that somehow I'm going to be enough, and for the right people, I'm not ever going to be too much, and I'm always going to be enough if it's the right people. If it's people that are not good fits for me, I'm never going to be enough, and it's going to be exhausting for both of us. So those people will need a different agent.
Love that. Diane Davidson, hand is up. Good morning, Di.
Good morning. Thank you, Michael. I don't even know how to express this, but I have no problem going to get a steak even if the closing falls apart. So,
Good for
sometimes,
you. I
yeah,
envy you.
well, I don't. That envy's not. Believe me, I live in envy. Do not, don't. Not. But the point is that I feel like, especially in the last few years, with friends getting sick, whatever, I have such an appreciation for the richness that is not business. And to the point of probably not prioritizing enough. Like, thank God for my team and thank God for people around me, because a little bit of imposter syndrome. But the point I want to make is, only the heartbeat we're having in the second is guaranteed, and my focus is largely on my life, and just being happy with the richness of that, not monetary, clearly.
Yeah, no, that's key. One of the circles I quickly went to was key relationships, and I ended up writing a letter to my dad, who has since passed away, and wrote one to my mom, wrote one to my wife, And I just started settling the accounts so that I kept shorter accounts, shorter tabs with people. And my goal now is to say it while I still can, because I don't know how much time left. And I play games which may seem morbid, but if I've only got 6 months left, which of these circles am I working on? Am I caught up with the people that are the closest to me? Am I settled? Is there any unfinished business there that I need to go take care of? So it's super cool how momentum in one area can ripple into the others. And I love that, because I'm losing friends too. And I hate deleting numbers out of my phone. That's heartbreaking.
Man, I'll tell you, 9:00, 9:01. Boy, did that go fast. Michael, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning. It's always great to see you, and thanks for sharing.
Man,
Guys,
it
was quick.
fast.
Oh yeah, it's 9:01 and we had 50 people on the call. Just FYI.